Well, we're not live yet. So you want to ask me that now?
Now I can ask it? Oh, okay, great. Even perfect. Fuck you. I'm leaving, actually. Yeah. All right. No, how's it going, man? It's been like a week since 2 weeks, actually, since I've seen you.
Really?
Yeah. Because I didn't come up, because we went to the grandparents 2 weeks ago and had... I wasn't awake for that.
Oh,
you weren't there. So I guess 3 weeks then.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah,
because I last saw you when you left because you for
break. Yeah, for Christmas break or New Year's. Before I left. I left.
Right before New Year's.
Yeah, right before I left for Austin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, can we crack our beers now?
For those no. Sure.
Yes.
Let's go for it. All right, hold on.
God, I need position. Oh, you ready? Okay. Oh, yes. Prepare yourself. Get ready, boys. Oh, that was pretty synchronized. That was pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad. We're drinking obviously the beer of champions.
Beer of champions.
Miller High Life.
You had all the cheers, obviously, but like you had any. You could have put any beer in there. Nobody would have known.
No.
And you go.
They know by the crack. They know by the crack.
They know by the. Hey, that sounds like a Millie can. Speaking of cans, I actually saw wine in a beer can today at Publix. Yeah, I was nothing is even more lowbrow than box wine.
If box wine is baloney to normal wine, then right, then that's like spam. Yep, spam. That's the spam of wine.
Agreed, yeah.
I still try it though.
Well, the funny part was it wasn't even sold in like a 6-pack. It was just like by itself.
Individually?
Yeah, just individual cans, which I guess it's
wine, right? So it's like 13-15% alcohol. You don't need a 6-pack of wine.
How does like Foster's and these other like big beer cans, how do they get away with just selling the one can? Because you can't do that. Can you? You can't just sell like single beer cans from Publix.
You go to gas stations and stuff like that. You can buy single beer cans.
Single beer cans?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you could buy single beers.
It's for those fucking
really
awful.
Scraping by alcoholics.
That's
really struggling.
If you're in that situation, that's not great.
It'd be really impressive if you could
when I was in Alabama over the last weekend.
Oh, right.
I went into a gas station and like
bought a single beer.
I've been on the road for about 200 miles and I was like, fuck, I just need a single.
A little something to make this time go.
Well,
faster.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, as far as beer prices go, I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and normally I bought
capital of beer.
I bought this 18-pack for like $12, right? Like it's cheap.
Less than $1 a beer. That's great.
For sure.
That's a good
probably like
good
66 cents
it's a good
on the
beer
dollar.
to dollar ratio.
But in Montgomery, they had
why did you say Montgomery different?
I know. It's weird. I don't say that word
Montgomery
very often.
Or in Montgomery.
Montgomery.
Yeah, Montgomery.
In Montgomery.
Yeah. Wrong on both accounts, I imagine.
Well, I guess a normal 6-pack here is like just under $6.
Sure.
6-pack over there of the tall boys. So the 16-ounce, not like your normal 12-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
The full 16-ounce pint cans was $3.99.
Yikes. I could definitely see myself.
I was thinking to myself, God, I should stock up. Like, that's crazy.
Like, hey, I'll take your entire stock.
That's a pitcher and a half of beer.
Yeah.
Which would normally, if you went to like somewhere shitty like a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it'd be like $12.
It would be like $10 for like Bud Light and a pitcher.
At least.
For one
at the
pitcher.
very least $10.
You can go to this gas station in Alabama and get a pitcher and a half
but
full beer, not even light beer, just regular beer, for $4. That's...
the difference being that you have to go to this gas station and you have to be on the walk of shame.
You have to live there.
You have to live in Montgomery. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. Which, by the way, if you're listening to this in Montgomery, first of all, fuck the name of Montgomery.
Yep. And also fuck you for living in Montgomery.
But shout out to that one gas station with the cheap ass beer. Really holding down all the alcoholics in that like 20-mile radius.
The bathroom was not good, as you can imagine.
You thought the $4 beer was going to be indicative of their bathroom?
Interestingly enough, right? It was like a normal rundown like Alabama gas station bathroom, right?
Normal,
so shitty sink, dim lighting. No soap.
Somebody's definitely gotten shivved in that
non-potable water, like the whole thing. Yeah. But it did have a giant, one whole wall of that thing was one giant painting. So someone put in the time to put in a painting. No, but it was a hanging up painting. It wasn't like they didn't paint on the walls.
Oh, okay.
Someone hung a painting in there, and it was really big. And it was like some weird abstract art. I don't know if they bought it.
How much was it?
It didn't have a price tag.
You never see like the price tags. Like if you go to like what is it like? There's some Starbucks like high end like stupid
That's a
places.
Starbucks.
Yeah, well they'll have the prices on the bottom.
This is a gas station in Alabama. This isn't even like a Texaco.
Yeah,
this is just like
still a struggling
nameless
artist, regardless. Like
this is a nameless gas station in Alabama. You think they're putting prices on art?
Well, they're putting art in bathrooms, so
Plus,
this is clearly an outlier.
Hanging in a bathroom. Is anyone gonna buy that for any amount of money?
You don't want your new.
That could have been an original
apartment.
Da Vinci. I'm not buying it from the Alabama.
Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah, Da
Okay.
Vinci. You thought I said DiCaprio, didn't you?
No. I knew you said Da Vinci, but did he do paintings or did he only do
The
like
Mona Lisa?
Oh yeah, is that him?
That's a him.
Is that a him? Is that a Da Vinci dude?
Yes.
All right. Well, I clearly don't know my arts. I'm
Right.
bad at arts.
But the point was, it could have been one of his.
Could have been.
I wouldn't have bought it. Because it was an Alabama bathroom, and it looked like it had been in an
I don't
Alabama
know.
bathroom.
This looks like it's got a lot of shit and urine stains on it. Could be.
Yeah, so it was a
be
very
tainted.
surprisingly stained.
Surprisingly?
Surprisingly
Okay.
stained.
That's
because
must
I
be
don't
very
think,
surprising.
I mean, there's plenty of things to stain in there. I wouldn't jump right to the giant painting.
You'd think
but-
you'd go for the porcelain things in there
Yeah.
first. Yeah. All
Some
right,
people
man.
just can't make it.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
indeed.
we have
I'm down
to.
for some Star.
Someone's
we do.
got to.
Yeah. It's because nobody talks about this stuff. It is a
Nobody
it is
wants
a void.
to. It's a sad topic these days.
It is a bit sad.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Like being longtime fans,
You know what?
it's a
funny.
little rough.
Okay, if we're just going to talk about the movies.
No, we could talk about the whole.
Well, yeah, just to start off.
Well, we're not allowed to talk. Well, what do we determine is canon? Like, because all of the
I guess
all
whatever
of the
Disney-
all the legend stuff is not
Yeah.
canon.
But I mean,
and-
what have you even? Because the only Legends things I've even like seen or absorbed would probably be the 2003 Clone Wars TV show.
Just that, yeah.
That's the only canon.
Well, I guess what I was
non-canon
thinking of-
Legends thing.
The only thing I was thinking of is like I've watched YouTubers where they'll go into like they'll explain the backstories of some characters that we get to see in like Disney shows or in the Disney show,
Like
well, no,
Yaddle?
shows, I guess. Yeah. Well, not just Yaddle, but like other characters that you kind of see in
Yeah.
the periphery, and they have backstories, obviously. And a lot of their backstory,
Like Han Solo's like third
Like
mate,
his comrade
Jax, who's the giant
as
rabbit.
No, yeah, exactly. Like there's stupid shit like that have like obviously full backstories that some dude came up with. And so those deal a lot in canon or outside of canon, like for instance, like General Grievous's backstory, all of like the Mandalorian shit. A lot of that is canon.
Yeah,
a lot of
outside
that
of
is
probably
non-canon.
Clone Wars stuff and Rebels stuff.
Yeah, a lot of like the way that the clones came into being. A lot of that stuff is not in canon anymore. And so like so Disney kind of just shut all that shit down because they can't control it. So.
Yeah. Which I mean, a lot of that stuff is shit. To be fair,
Like what? Oh, the legend stuff.
yeah, like a lot of the old
Well,
stuff,
I mean,
like
it
what
makes
I was
it-
just telling you about, like that thing, like Han Solo in one of the Legends, one of the books, I think, from like maybe the 80s or 90s. He had like a bunny man third mate.
Oh, you're right.
named Jax.
Before, yeah.
That would pal around
Before,
with
was that
the-
before Chewie or was
It
that
doesn't
after?
matter.
Yeah, or it couldn't be after. It was like
Couldn't
before.
be after,
yeah. It was like it was like during some sort of hiatus from Chewie, and he had like this other giant rabbit thing.
but,
Which was a badass, by the way. If I remember
Apparently,
correctly.
it's a bunny man.
Yeah.
So
That's
it
like the last thing you think would kill
his
you. right?
actions don't define him. He's a bunny man. He can't ever be more than that. So I was gonna ask. There have been 11 movies.
God, that's a lot. Yeah.
If you don't, I guess 12 if you want to count the Clone Wars movie. Attack of the Clones 2.5.
I'll count that because I mean it's canon and it did.
I guess technically it is canon.
It did set off an entire series. What is
Yeah,
it?
and I am happy
How many
about-
series now, or how many seasons?
I guess they're about to do
8
7.
or 7.
They're
Okay,
about to do the 7th.
so yeah, I mean it spawned
So-
6 seasons of a show.
Right.
And that was back
yeah.
when we had like multiple. When we had more than 10 episodes per season, which was nice. Which seems to be like the max now.
Yeah, but if you have 10 episodes of seasons now it's like treated as like a
That's true. It is
like
like a
in
mini
high regard.
series.
It's like, ooh,
it's like
that's quality,
yeah. That it just doesn't matter if it's actually quality. It just matters how many episodes we have.
Well, I know, like, you're finding this out because you're rewatching Clone Wars.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which I know from memory, the first couple seasons of that are pretty bad.
Okay, so it's interesting that you say that because...
They just have a lot of kiddie episodes, right? Like, a lot of, like, filler shit that's, like, droid-based, like C-3PO and R2-D2.
Actually, no.
Fucking
like,
around.
No, they do have, like, the occasional episode
like
where...
Jar Jar episodes.
Okay. So, normally Jar Jar or the droids don't get... They're not like... I mean, the whole story would be centered around an adventure that they're having.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be the only ones. Like, if you have a Jar Jar episode, it's almost always going to have...
Like a B story
It's always going to have Padme in it. Because she's also a senator. Or it's always going to have another...
Is that good?
Well, I'm not saying that she's like a powerhouse of action, but like I'd much rather have the exchange between those two than I would like just Jar Jar.
What I love about Clone Wars is that it's in this weird position where obviously it's a TV show.
Yeah.
The Cartoon Network, I guess, was originally had it.
I think they were the original producers. Yeah.
And somebody I guess technically a distributor, but it's set in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
Right, which is a how many year span?
It's not ever really clearly defined. It's not as big of a time jump in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Right, because that would be
because like Anakin ages like 10 years or something like that between those.
Well, he was what? He was like
he's like 10 and then in Attack of the Clones he's at least
Phantom,
18.
Yeah,
because he's fucking
I guess so.
Padme. So
well, he's trying, real hard.
No, they like Attack of the Clones.
At the end,
I guess they get married.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they get married at the end.
I don't know. It's pretty. They're in a relationship that is not appropriate if he's 15, she's over 18.
How old was she supposed to be when they met? Because he was 10, she was like what, like 15, 16?
Yeah, she's supposed to be like 15.
In universe, it's supposed to be
right,
yeah.
But she doesn't look any different between the two movies. So because they only came out like 2 years.
She's looking smashable. She's looking legal from day one.
Hey, she's 15.
Yeah, you're probably right.
No, actually, I think Natalie Portman, when Phantom Menace came out, was
pretty sure she was
probably like 20 years old.
Yeah. A little.
Whatever we were talking about, Natalie Portman, doesn't matter.
Fair.
Let's just focus on
the movies.
Yes,
because you wanted to know
12 movies.
12
if you
movies.
include obviously the spin-offs and the 2008.
So we're talking. Okay, so we have
Clone
the original
Wars
trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and then the
animated
sequel trilogy. So that's 9.
Yeah,
and then we
Rogue
have
One,
Rogue One,
Solo.
Of those 12 films, which
How
ones
many,
do I like?
Yeah.
Nate is under the impression that if you're going to be snooty about it, maybe maybe 2 are what are going to be considered
two for sure.
Okay, so solid 2, maybe a third are good. I would argue 3
which
to 4.
one would be the third?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I forget. What are you? What did you say the 2 that you liked were?
Yeah, New Hope and Empire. But that's the snooty. That's not me.
Okay.
No. I like more than that.
Yeah.
In fact, I like 3. Like the opening part of Return of the Jedi, I really love, even though it doesn't make any sense. The part in Jabba's palace and all the getting Han back and all that shit.
Yeah. Wait, why doesn't it make sense?
It's the dumbest fucking plan he's ever had. He strolls in with all of his stuff. He says, "Give me Han, or you all die." They all laugh at him. They take all of his stuff, and then they force him into Sarlacc, or force him down into the pit with the Rancor.
Rancor. Yeah.
And then he fights through that. Then he's still captured.
Right.
Then they
bring him to the
get everybody up, and then they drive out to the Sarlacc pit just to kill them all. And then he decides to kill everybody with his sword. Instead of just walking in and killing everybody with his sword. What changed? What was different?
Right. So
hold on. What was different opposed to him just walking into Jabba's place and killing everybody, opposed to just killing everybody there?
Here's what I imagine was the thought process on that.
Okay.
Right? Like here's my imagined thought process.
Retconning. Here we are.
Yeah. Right. Well, not retconning because we have no idea if this actually happened. But what I imagined was like he couldn't get in to the palace with a weapon, right?
He already did.
Well, he didn't have it.
No, he had it. Oh, I'm sorry. He had it in R2 for some fucking reason.
Right. So
that's right.
His plan is going to have the.
His plan is even more convoluted because he had to smuggle in R2 and C-3PO with his stuff before he got in. Opposed to just, it's a lightsaber.
Right.
There's no door that can hold him. Which is funny because you can just cut through. We've established this with Phantom Menace. You can just cut through shit.
Right. And he even kills the guards. Like, he kills the guards like with the mind or with what, or he chokes them. No, he chokes them. I forgot.
Yep.
Yeah, he chokes them.
Jabba isn't aware of like his relationship with like Leia, for example, because Leia gets captured first because she goes in there all disguised as a bounty hunter and tries to get
I guess he does.
Han out first, and then she gets captured.
Right.
but Jabba doesn't know that.
Which is such a bummer.
We don't even know as an audience that they're related.
Right.
We know they're friends, but like we don't.
Good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is a stupid scene. And it does kind of like it does have that air of like it's supposed to be a good kind of like a heist kind of feel to it, you know,
like a breakout,
like stealing.
Yeah,
they're a break. Yeah, like a prison break kind of thing. And they don't. And you're right though. They kind of like.
But it turns out to be probably
the cool planning, but it doesn't have any of the cool execution. I'd
argue it's opposite. It has like a lot of cool execution because you're just watching it.
He doesn't even know about the Rancor bit. How is that a good execution?
Well, no, he's just going. He's just winging it.
Destroyed.
He has no idea what he's doing. Yeah, but
he just thought he was gonna go in there all Jedi Knight and fucking just own the day.
Fuck it, Salacious Crumb and all that.
What?
That's the name of the little rat guy who laughs at Jabba's jokes.
Oh, I didn't know his name.
Yeah,
wow,
see, there's just dumb shit like that.
This is where we differentiate the super nerd from just the normal fan. Got it. No, okay. So I would argue though. So yours are New Hope and Return of the Jedi, or sorry, Empire Strikes Back.
I like all three. All three of the
you're
OT.
a big fanboy of the original three.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They're fun as hell. They were obviously revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
I grew up with them.
Yeah,
they're just great.
Yeah.
I mean, the third one is
Nate's
definitely
explaining our childhood to me.
Yeah. Well, the third one definitely kind of jumps the shark a little bit. There are some like wacky bits, and I'd say it kind of like it misuses Han because I feel like Han was supposed to be dead after Empire.
Oh no, he was.
Yeah. So Han doesn't have a point in this movie.
Well,
because
he comes back at the end.
No, yeah. Like in the first bit, he gets unfrozen. He's frozen.
That's in New Hope. Sorry.
What
Return of the Jedi, Han doesn't. No, it's Lando that does the actual like work.
Oh, as far as blowing up the second Death Star? Yeah. But I'm saying, like, think about what Han does in Return of the Jedi.
I'm actually trying to remember.
Frozen.
I don't remember.
He gets unfrozen. He's blind for a while.
Right.
He doesn't help. He's just blind for the whole job a bit, so he's useless for that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Okay, whatever.
Oh no, he's a general. He goes. They meet with Mon
Star Wars
Mon
loves
Mothra,
making random ass bitches
general. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah,
Rise of Skywalker. They're just like, hey, can you be general for me?
Yeah,
thanks.
just like real quick.
Oh,
like,
you're
I'm
general too.
Break. Yeah,
we're generals. That's so dumb.
Right. I guess okay, hang on. So there is like an idea with that though, I think. Like slight like explanation is that I think during the Clone Wars they make all the Jedi generals. Like they're just boom, they're generals.
None of these people even remember the Clone Wars.
Right, I guess not. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. But I guess like if you think about it, like they just they're like, well, you guys were peacekeepers, so I guess good tacticians? Question mark? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part where the prequels kind of fall for me, where especially when you have scenes like Yoda coming down and attack the clones, and he says, "A perimeter create around the enemy," like shit like that. It's like really.
I like the way you said it, even more fucked up than he did.
I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something ridiculous like that, where you have Yoda, this little puppet man, like telling troops where to go and what to do. It's ridiculous.
It's interesting that you bring up the puppet thing because they act so in the original 99 Phantom Menace, he is still a puppet.
Yep.
And then in episode 2 and 3, he's CGI. He's CGI. He's animated. But what's funny is that on the Disney, if you have Disney Plus, not sponsored by Disney Plus at all.
Disney, you can sponsor the fuck out of us. Holy shit.
Yeah, but if you go onto Disney Plus and watch episode 1, they went back and animated Yoda.
Oh, Yoda.
So he's not a puppet anymore. Yeah. Which is kind of interesting. I think it keeps with the continuity.
Keeps with the tone of the prequels,
right?
For sure.
Because it made no fucking sense that he changed that. Like it is a drastic change from episode 1 to episode 2.
In episode 1, he's not expected to do much. He just sits in that chair the whole time.
Well, there's nothing to do. There's no war going on. It's just a bunch of trade disputes and fucking Senate
scenes. The entire world of Naboo would argue with your point.
Well, okay, that's great. Yeah, the Gungan deaths. Yeah, they'd probably get a little upset.
Well, even the normal people, they got invaded.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Full-scale
they
invasion
got invaded
in
and
Naboo.
occupied for all of like 15 minutes. Yeah, they had to go. Oh, we had to go without water for 15 minutes. It was rough. Yeah. Before the Gungans came, a society that we shunned and exiled for who knows how many generations came and saved our bacon.
Yeah, I know. It's there are some weird parallels you could.
It's just I love how quickly they just totally forgot about everything. They're just like, all right, who knows, 100 years of
Misa okay with Yusa. I think that's actually a line in
thinking Yusa okay. Like, it's so stupid. Like, that whole part
Elephant in the
was
room.
Great, yeah.
Did George is?
We don't talk about Jar Jar because you know that Jar
like the Trade Federation accents and the Gungan accents, they all just kind of come off as
the Trade Federation sounds hella fucking Asian,
right?
Super, yeah.
And like, does Gungan kind of sound hot take? I'm
just sounds like Ebonics, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Or Jamaican or something like that. Something like that, which is like not probably
very West Indies, like Caribbean, kind of
which
sound.
Which is kind of funny because like,
I mean,
basically makes the movie make the white people are all good,
very,
and they have
very
all
white.
the stuff,
yeah, they're
like taken care of, and it's like we have these nice buildings.
Well, no. Okay, if you think about it, they're like Greek.
War.
They're like the ancient Greek. They have like giant monuments to everything. They're very ornate. Everything has ivy growing on it. Like,
they're almost more like Roman.
Whatever. Yeah, to me it's all the same. But yeah, you're right.
Because they're just very
flashy,
grandiose about everything. But I would say, that it just seems like that. You know, if you're like the Gungans are kind of supposed to be this pseudo like Jamaican thing, they're all like their technology is not as good.
Which is you say they're not as good, but I mean they really have cool technology. I mean they have like these Jello walls that hold water.
They used like
somehow.
an elephant in like Space War.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we used horses up until World War II, so I mean, you know.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
I mean, you know, it's not
saw
crazy.
War Horse, dude. It didn't work out.
That was World War I think.
Yeah, I know.
So that would have been more reasonable. But yeah, no, I mean, I like that. And but the one thing about Star Wars that I think is always really hilarious.
Well, my point with that is that it just seemed like really tone deaf. Of George Lucas to like kind of throw in these like I guess he was just trying
we can't have people of like color I guess in like the main I guess we do have Captain Tapas, but,
like don't use accents that sound Jamaican or Asian or whatever and compare them and like they just sound really stereotypical and like and this usually isn't my perspective on things but you know I'm not usually like ooh let's not make that joke because some people might get offended. That's not usually my thing. But
Ben Shapiro, and now it's switching sides.
Jesus, I think we were staying away from that.
Oh,
but,
sorry, are we staying away from politics? All right, that's fair. Yeah.
But
back to the Senate. All right.
Yeah, it just I'll leave it at that. It just seemed really tone deaf. I don't think George. Obviously, I'm not calling him a racist or anything by any means. It's just funny that it came out that way.
Do you think it just like ended up that way just because like the actors who were playing them may have just been that nationality?
I think he was just trying to invent weird alien sounding accents, and it's hard to come up with something completely new.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's totally reasonable. Yeah, they needed a unique, a sound to them, and to kind of like make it easier to differentiate between the races. And I totally get that they would just use accents to make it much easier.
Well, I don't even think he thought of that. He was just like talking like a weird, different way.
Well, they all talk the same though. Like all the.
Well, there's only like 2 viceroys in the Federation that you hear talk.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I mean they have the one other lady who's like
she's like the controller.
I don't know. Oh God, that sounded really bad.
She's wearing goggles that have slits in them. Let's make that distinction
very clear.
Jesus Christ.
But she also has the same accent.
I guess, sort of. Yeah, it's hard to compare.
You're right. She does kind of sound. She sounds more Jamaican-y than anybody. So I don't know what the deal is there. Yeah,
it's a weird thing, but
well, Boss Nass just sounds like a fucking the Boss Nass, the head Gungan guy, the lead, the fat one.
Oh, the fat one.
That's just shakes his face the whole time.
It's just ridiculous.
Like he does. I don't even know what accent he's supposed to be. I guess other than like, because he sounds a little different than anybody else. Or do you think he's just in the same?
I'm
We're
trying to
getting
remember.
off topic.
Yeah, this is not important
at all.
I
wanted to talk about the ones that I thought, but you were talking about why you thought they were good.
Yeah, so I mean, I like the OT.
Yeah.
And I'd even say I probably like Revenge of the Sith. It's just a cool.
Oh, visually, it looks really fun. It's really fun in the beginning.
And whenever you have to, there are obviously problems with it, but
but it has that part where you get to finish a storyline, which is always satisfying. It's supposed to be satisfying.
You're finally figuring out how do we go from where we're at in the prequels to where we are in A New Hope, and it does an okay job at that.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of, I feel like it
There's
rushes
a lot,
it a little at the end.
I mean,
like there's a lot of cool stuff that happened during the Order
and it
66
doesn't.
stuff,
It
and
really
they
makes
just
it really makes
over
you
it.
think that like clones are stormtroopers, which they're not.
Well, they were for
They
a little
don't-
while, and then they phased them out.
Obviously they had to make a
phased
thing,
them
but
out, yeah.
you know, if you don't know anything else about Star Wars and you look at it, you look at Revenge of the Sith, and then you look at A New Hope, you just think, oh, well, those are just the clone guys.
Yeah, when it's like been 20 years and all the clones have died or have otherwise been disposed of, and now it's all just
because they
like
rapidly age. Right, they don't age at normal.
They age at twice the speed, right?
Which apparently didn't work for Boba Fett. Was fine.
Well, no, they explained that. So remember when he's talking to, I think it's Shri something,
one of the
Kaminoans, where they said they were discussing why Jango Fett's payment was he would like an unaltered clone, like no growth acceleration, no whatever. So he's just a normal kid at that point.
Right.
So
they did explain that.
Yeah, they explained that one. Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah, but yeah, so for you, it's so you like. My thing is, like, I have a big fondness for Episode 1. I think, obviously, that was, like, the one I saw first in theaters.
Phantom Menace?
Phantom Menace, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And everybody, I think, really shits on it, but it has a lot of great characters.
Phantom Menace isn't nearly as bad as Attack of the Clones is.
No, agreed.
Attack of the Clones is, like, unwatchable.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually rewatched it recently, and it's not as bad as I was expecting it to be. And maybe that I was going into it expecting it to be really bad, and I was just like, all right, if it's anything above any just absolute garbage, it's fine.
I say unwatchable. It probably isn't now, just because it's probably so memey.
Probably because you go no, not even that, but you go back and you're so used to how the watchability of movies now, and then you go back and you're like, all right, so the wardrobe department was a little fucked up, and like the story about like the whole Padme Anakin love story was absolute hot garbage.
God.
But like everything else is actually pretty watchable. Like the whole fight scene between Obi-Wan and Boba Fett and their whole like Jango. Sorry, you're right. My bad. Fucking horrible. Jango Fett. I mean, Boba was there. Fair.
Yeah, he wasn't fighting.
He wasn't fighting. No. Although he does shoot the cannon at Obi-Wan at one point.
Oh, you're right. On the ship called Slave One for whatever reason.
Yeah. So, but like when Obi-Wan is doing all these detective investigation work.
Yeah, which is the cooler part of Attack of the Clones. Which is
kind of cool. Yeah. And he goes to Geonosis, and actually episode 2 is the one where they have the Battle of Geonosis, which is also really cool.
Some parts,
yeah.
See, and it's funny because in Attack of the Clones, every clone in that movie is completely CGI.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yep.
And then so obviously that battle, most of it is all just kind of CGI.
It doesn't age super well.
Yeah. And you have a lot of weird scenes like the Yoda saying, a perimeter create around the enemy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was your original complaint. Yeah.
But I mean, not only that, but you have that weird scene with like the Colosseum, and they're like sacrificing the Padme, like Obi-Wan, and Anakin to like three different
our Colosseum games
it's
here.
It's a weird
gladiatorial scene. Yeah.
Which in a way is kind of cool.
It made it okay. So the explanation behind that, right, is that it was Viceroy who had it out for Padme, right, because he fucked up the Naboo blockade.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Viceroy who wanted it to be done that way. It wasn't like, I think if it was up to Dooku, if it was up to
they just kill him.
Yeah, if it was up to, I forget what the Geonosian general's name is.
Is he another little Geonosian guy?
He's like the older one with the cane who does a lot of clicks.
Yeah, I remember that now.
That guy.
I remember that now.
Yeah, so he like, I think if it was up to him or it was up to Dooku or whatever, I think they probably just would have whacked them. Like it wouldn't have been it would have been like, like boom, boom, no problem. Like especially if Anakin hadn't been there, they definitely would have whacked her, no problem. But Viceroy wanted to make it a big, machismo thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, now I have the power over you thing. And obviously they have 2 Jedis there, which is just, icing on the cake. So they were like, let's get these 3 done at the same time. No big deal.
Right.
But, like for me, like, so when I went back and watched it, I actually found Revenge of the Sith to be worse, in my opinion.
Really?
Only because there are so many awkward scenes in that film, which is funny to say because there are a lot of awkward scenes. I mean, there's the most memeable awkward scene of all the world in episode 2 with, the whole sand bullshit thing.
Well, sure, there's a lot of that. Also,
but if you take that aside, like that can almost be forgiven because it doesn't really have it. I mean, it's their love story that's important. Yada yada, doesn't matter to me at least. Like for me, like the more important part is what's actually happening to like the galaxy as a whole, like what's happening.
Right.
And then in episode 3, there was a lot of like these moments where they're like just like Anakin and Obi-Wan are having like this really weird like interaction. And granted, episode 2 also has that, especially in the beginning when like they meet up again.
There's some great bits in Attack of the Clones, like when the assassination attempt on Padme is hilarious to me because if you think about the plan of I guess Dooku. So Dooku hires Jango Fett to kill Padme. Right. Jango Fett goes out and he hires
a tertiary,
another bounty hunter, the shapeshifter, to kill Padme. Yeah. Shapeshifter employs a robot to kill Padme. Right. Yeah. The little droid thing. Mm-hmm. The droid thing employs some worms to kill Padme. It's like, why are we doing 5 lines of employment? Just kill Padme.
Because we don't want it to. I like the whole point of that, right? Would be make it really hard to tie it back to Jango, right?
Why?
They immediately tie it. They immediately
he's there.
He shows himself. Yeah. Like if anything, and he just like let that shit play out. Like, I guess the shapeshifter would have given him away, right? Like she would have said,
yeah, that's why
she would have said it's a bounty hunter named
with
this
the rapid age dart. I don't know what the fuck you shot her
no,
with.
it wasn't the rapid age dart. It was just a poison dart, and she was a changeling.
So she reverted back to her original
thing.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. He could have just shot her with a normal gun.
Right, yeah, he could have just shot her with a normal fucking slug thrower like anybody else in the Star Wars universe. But no, it has to be a special geonosis thing that leads Obi-Wan on a fucking,
Yeah, really. That gives away a lot of shit.
Yeah, like had he not done that, Obi-Wan would have been fucked. That would have been like roll credits. Like that would have been it. It would have been like right after that it would have been the scene where he goes, "I am the Senate." And then that would have been it.
But I think it's also funny because you're talking about banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And in Attack of the Clones, there's a great bit where, like, right before the assassination attempt on Padme, Obi-Wan's like, "You're too reckless, Anakin. You've got to just think and with a calm head and just act appropriately, like trust the Force." Yeah. And then they find the worms in her bedroom, and Obi-Wan sees the droid who just deposited the worms through the window, and he fucking leaps out of the window over like 100 stories over. He just leaps
more than 100 stories.
Oh yeah, like infinitely high. He just leaps through the window and grabs onto it. Yeah. What the fuck, Obi-Wan? Like that's
bold move. I mean,
he
clearly
just got mad.
I think what he's saying is like, you're being reckless. But I'm allowed to be reckless because I'm a knight. I'm a Jedi. And I'm a full-fledged cool guy.
Fuck you. I'm a master, dude.
Yeah. Fuck you. I'm a master. I'm gonna jump out the window. I think although I will say at least Attack of the Clones has like some interesting banter. Like there's a great bit where so Obi-Wan is falling through the city and Anakin has to like he stole a car. An air car, and then he picks Obi-Wan up, and then he's like talking. He's like, took you long enough, and he's like, well, I had to find what I like, and with the proper horsepower and everything.
Was it Obi-Wan was the one? Wait, Anakin picked up Obi-Wan in the car.
Yeah, so Anakin was the one that stole the car with the yellow car.
If I'm not wrong, Anakin then jumps out of that car.
He does, yeah.
And then Obi-Wan's mad at him for it again. Yeah, exactly. Which is a double whammy. Fuck you, Obi-Wan. Right. You did this. I'm following you.
Right, exactly. If anybody, it's the whole like argument of like, well, I hate society. It's like, well, you keep saying that, but maybe it's just you. Well, if it's me, it's because society made me this way. Like he is that way because Obi-Wan made him that way. Obi-Wan is the most like he is like the most sassy Jedi.
Don't be like me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do me, but don't be like me.
Don't be like me. Yeah. Just do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That is like Obi-Wan's mantra, but he's just constantly like being a sassy, just asshole most of the time.
Can you take a 4-second break and reach behind you and grab me another Millie?
Oh, a 4-second break? Oh, okay. I think
I got 4 seconds.
I wish I could. I'm going to have to take my headphones off so I can reach.
That's fine.
Oh, hang on. Maybe not.
Little opening mini fridge ASMR.
Reach one without having to bend over. There we go. There you go, sir. How's that Millie for you? Can I get a crack on mic? Can I get a cold?
Can I get a crack on mic?
Can I get a cold crack on the mic? Ooh.
How was that?
That was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
It sounded great. Yeah. It sounded way. If anything, if you could edit that crack in the beginning, because like that was
a better crack.
Yeah, it was a better crack. I think. Okay. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just duplicate that sound twice. Yeah, like make it 2 sounds and then slightly off. And
Right.
Then, yeah, that's the.
So without getting too lost into the ridiculousness of
just the black hole of which
the black
Star
hole
Wars.
of tangents of Star Wars. I probably like. I think I like. Yeah, I probably only like really 4 movies that I enjoy. Yep. Ooh, that was good. Yeah,
it's toasty.
Yeah, which would just be Revenge of the Sith and then the OT. I mean, it's not that the Phantom Menace isn't too bad, but I definitely won't go back and watch it unless I kind of feel like I have to.
I will say there was one movie that I really wanted to like, which was Solo. I really wanted to like that film, but I think they fucked it. They fucked it hard.
It's all just so much fan service.
It is. It's a lot of that, and it's also a lot of
and
like.
Lando's kind of fucked in that movie, to be honest.
I forget why.
He's just not like
he's not as charismatic or like a different kind of charismatic. He's just
weird, and like Donald Glover kind of like goes in and out of the accent on him. He's like sometimes he's doing Lando sometimes kind of stuff, and then sometimes he's just kind of he's just Donald Glover.
He's just Donald Glover. Yeah. He's just Atlanta now.
Right. Or really he's just Community or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he's just playing himself.
Yeah.
And which I mean Donald Glover usually very great actor.
Yeah.
It's just kind of I feel maybe he didn't get a lot of direction
or or he just didn't spend enough time with Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Clearly, he just didn't get enough time
with him. And then not only that, but he is in love with the robot who's advocating for robot rights.
Shit. What is her name?
I don't care. What a terrible part of that movie.
Well, I think the part of that made it worse is that she becomes like the brain of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, so she's in the original trilogy and all the sequel trilogy
which I'm just
stuff.
like,
oh man,
that really takes away from the Millennium Falcon for me.
I do like the fact that she is advocating for free robot rights, which is ridiculous. They're fucking dumbass droids. I don't give a fuck what R2-D2 thinks.
I mean, they do show a certain level of sentience, though, that like is surprising. That they don't have a lot of. They're kind of ignored.
They're robots.
They're more ignored than actually like abused. I think they're more neglected.
Right,
than
but
anything.
she goes from being like being able to walk around and like express her thoughts and everything, and she's like the most enslaved out of all of them because she's stuck inside. She's just a navigation computer.
Yeah, she's a voiceless box inside of a big ship that she can't even control.
But yeah, apparently like. It's canon that Lando has been having some kind of physical relationship with this robot. Because of Solo. Solo canonizes the idea that Lando is fucking a robot
right.
in Star Wars. Like, come on. That's dumb as hell.
I mean, based on how the world is going right now, like in the IRL, I mean, I could buy that a little. All right, that's fine. Have you seen the latest sex dolls out, bro? I mean, they're pretty.
I'm a fembot living in a femputer's world.
Wow, some Futurama reference. I love it. If you're a big Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars nerd, you're probably also a Futurama nerd. Let's be honest.
Yeah, probably.
That's basically the same thing.
But yeah, Solo and. Not only to talk about all the dumb, like, fan servicey shit that they do. They have to explain how Han Solo got every little thing that made him Han Solo.
Right.
His dumbass dice. Yeah. His name is apparently just some dude just gave him the name Solo because he had no family.
Yeah.
Which is that the normal? Is that the normal operating procedure?
There's no need. Like, why did he do that?
But I don't think we never met any other Solos. Is he the only orphan we've met? No.
So you're right.
Exactly. So it's like. That one Imperial officer just felt sassy. He was just like, Solo.
He's like, damn, somebody's coming in alone. We can't put Han alone. That sounds stupid. So we're gonna put Solo.
Yeah, I mean, technically, like Anakin was an orphan, so. Or I mean, after his mom died, he's an orphan, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I think everybody is an orphan after their parents die.
That is true.
Yeah.
Fuck. What's the cutoff for orphan? Do you have to still be a kid?
I think you have to be a child and your parents die, yeah.
I mean, Attack of the Clones, he's like 18, but whatever. It's like a legal orphan for a minute.
Well, that's another interesting thing about
little
the Jedi.
Annie
that everybody,
little orphan Annie.
Yeah, there it is. And it's kind of another interesting thing about the whole Star Wars Jedi universe thing that nobody really talks about is the fact that they do basically not steal. I don't know.
No,
what's a nicer word for
they
kidnap?
definitely do kind of steal kids. Yeah,
yeah.
I think
they identify children.
That's
when
talked
they're
about
born.
in Clone Wars.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Like they get a little bit of lip service to that. Yeah, the show, the animated series. They do get a little lip service to that, but they basically and it's interesting because in the show they show a parent of one of these children who's not thrilled about it.
I think it was a Rhodian.
Yeah, it was a Rhodian. Yeah, exactly. Who's not thrilled about it. They're upset. Like they're like, well, why are you even back? You know, like why are you? You already took everything from me. Like why are you here?
If you compare it, like, you know, I mean, for most everybody, like obviously. You know, like for Anakin's situation, it was like a no-brainer that he would go because, like, the Jedi.
No, that doesn't even make sense because why would you? Okay, so once you have Anakin, why wouldn't you just go back and buy his mom as well?
Yeah, see, all that stuff's kind of fucked up.
There was an explanation for this recently that I heard where they're like, well, if you think about it, all the Jedi, they have no frame of reference for this. They were all taken as children. They don't understand the thought of like maternal, paternal. Like interactions, because like the Jedi Council and the Jedi Temple, like that's all they've ever had.
But there's no reason for them because like the Jedi
like, you want your
like,
mom back? Gross.
They're like the top. They're the 1% of the 1% of like the galaxy. I mean, they're living in a giant ass
like
building,
1,000,
like in the top of Coruscant, which is like the richest place you can be, right? Like they are.
I mean, they're an old order, but
yeah, like the whole organization of itself is amongst the top wealthy. I mean, they're doing fine. So. Even if they didn't quite understand that they should go back and buy the mom, if he had just said, "Hey, can you go back and buy my mom?" He should have been
Tatooine right now. If you could just she's having a rough time.
Pennies, man.
It would have been nothing. It would have been so easy for them.
They didn't even have to pay. They could just go back and like threaten Watto and be fine.
The one thing that I could
they didn't want to set a precedent. Well, we don't want to have to buy everybody's mom, Anakin. Okay,
no. Okay,
we've got a limit.
The one thing that I could maybe. Like see as a reason why they didn't was because she was bought pretty soon after he left by Lars, right? So his stepdad.
Oh,
Lars Owen.
That's
right?
fucking weird.
No, sorry. Owen is the son. Sorry, Lars. I forget what the last name is. Lars.
I don't know.
Is Lars the last name?
Did they even have a Lars Solo?
Yeah, exactly. So like he's bought by. No, it's Owen Lars. So Lars is the last name, but I forget what his first name is. The guy, you know, where in episode.
So Uncle Owen, technically, she knew
Uncle
Sheree
Owen,
or whatever.
Uncle Owen was Anakin's step brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would have made him Luke's uncle.
No, I don't think Lars and Owen are the same person.
No.
Or
Lars is the guy who bought Shmi.
Shmi, that's her name.
And then they got married, and then he already had a son, or he already had a
it is Owen Lars. That is the name. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You're right.
And so, but then what was the?
Well, I guess
Lars. No. Owen Lars was that's the son, the father though. Owen Lars' father is the one who bought.
So it would be that would be Luke's step granddad.
No, his stepdad.
No.
Oh, Luke's step-grand. Yeah. Luke's. Yeah. So it's Anakin's stepdad who it would have, So, but his kid.
Which makes all that
Which
so
is Uncle
dumb.
Owen. Uncle Owen is Luke's step-uncle. Yeah. Or uncle-in-law? Step-uncle. No, step-uncle. Yeah.
I guess it really depends because that really brings into a question about, like, you know, how did Darth Vader not know where his son was?
You think that would be the first place to check,
right? But I guess maybe he didn't.
Well,
that
no.
brings into question whether or not
Palpatine told him that they all died.
Well, he said that Padme died. I don't know
he
if he ever said that.
No, he said
that
everyone died.
I guess he must have.
Yeah, because he said that he killed Padme and Padme was pregnant, so he just assumed they all died.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So no, but anyways, what I was saying was that like it just shocks me that like. Or no, what I was saying was that she was bought pretty soon after they were married, and so she had a good life, and so she was only lost to the Sand People for like a couple months or like a month, I think, right? Because when he gets there, he's like, the guy was like, well, she's been gone a month, like you should just let her go, she's dead, and I guess he just like he fucking can't do that, so he had to go out there and slaughter a whole bunch of fucking Sand People, which I honestly didn't have a problem with. I mean, they didn't show him slaughtering women and children; they just saw him slaughtering the dudes.
Which is fine. Know he did.
Well, we know he did. Well, he said, yeah, because he fucking said it like 8 times. But like, yeah, so we know he did. But like, for me, like,
not just the men.
It's like they were holding her captive and like doing who knows. Yeah, exactly, and doing who knows what.
And she dies.
So she dies from torture, which is not the way you want to go.
It's a little weird. She's alive when he shows up, but then she dies in transit.
No, she dies while he's holding her.
I guess in that little hut.
Yeah, so she basically just holds on for like the minute that he's there.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I wonder if they like suck the water out of her. Because that's Sand People's whole thing. Or Tusken Raiders, I said. They feel like they own all the water on
the water
Tatooine.
was given to them by their god or something. Yeah, that's...
So all the foreigners.
Yeah. Which is another thing that's interestingly explained. No, they don't explain it in Mandalorian, but I like the interactions they have with the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
That was kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just like Batman into that situation where it's like...
Oh, they totally do. Yeah, they're just like, what do you mean they're... and
the young kid's like, oh, look at those Tusken Raiders out there. They're so fucking
Are
dumb.
They, though?
I hate those Tusken Raiders. He's like, watch what you say.
Yeah.
And he's like, why? Those dumb Tusken Raiders. Oh, shit.
Oh, what's up, guys? Yeah, exactly. No, it was kind of a funny interaction. Which is so... That episode... I don't know if I want to spoil it too much for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, which, by the way, go fucking watch it. But...
What, you want to spoil like episode 6 of Mandalorian or 5 or whatever?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much. But that character flip-flops so fucking hard. And also, I'm excited about because at the end of that episode, the assassin that they were going after, that they kill, quote unquote, there's a set of like, or what is it? Somebody walks up on her and like, I guess takes the corpse, or... she's not dead.
Okay, yeah.
The assassin, I forget what her name is.
She's like gone. Yeah.
Yeah, but like somebody walks back. That I'm super stoked about that. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of try to branch out. I mean, well,
Anyways,
what I was going to say. Yeah, we've been getting off tangents.
Well, you were asking me about my things.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that of the original series, the only ones that I thought were good, and not just I like watching for nostalgia's sake,
right,
are Empire Strikes Back. That is a arguably good movie.
Yeah, sure.
And then I don't want to say that episode. I think of the prequels, I think episode 1 is still the best.
Okay.
And then I think of it's super hot. And then I think of the new trilogy. Yikes, man! I don't like Force Awakens, and I definitely don't like Rise of Skywalker. I'm gonna have to go again. Hot take. I'm gonna have to go with.
Oh no.
Yeah,
you said Last Jedi is your
Last
favorite
Jedi.
of the
I think that's
trilogy?
I think that's my favorite.
Wow.
Not because of like
the hottest
things that
of takes.
Hottest. No, don't get me wrong. The Cantrobite scenes, that whole B storyline, garbage. That could be totally cut.
It's funny that you think Last Jedi is better than even Force Awakens, because like Rise of Skywalker is the worst.
Yeah,
it's the worst.
Arguably the worst. The most fun to watch, but arguably the worst.
Most fun to watch, you think?
Yeah. Just because, I mean, it's nonstop. Like it is.
That's not fun to me.
No, I mean, I guess by fun I mean like it. I don't know. You're right. Maybe
I'm constantly thinking, why did they do that? That's stupid. Like the whole movie, I'm thinking.
I will say
everything's dumb.
The whole connection between Rey and Kylo just gets so convoluted.
Well,
and
that started in Last Jedi.
Right,
so.
You're right. It does, but at least it's just like they don't. There's nothing like terribly physical. Like they
exchange some water,
a little bit of water.
Rain,
that's fair.
That gets on him.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think if there's any other physical.
And then we have the whole Luke
once you do it
transportation thing across the universe.
Well, sure, but that was a it's interesting because that's supposed to be the whole point of the Luke projecting himself was like an astral projection, right? Like he couldn't. He was like a ghost.
Yeah.
He couldn't actually
interact with anything,
but he did.
But he was a distract. Oh, he did.
When he meets with Leia, he hands her a physical pair of die.
You're right.
Han Solo's die.
So that would be teleportation.
And
then.
he holds her face and kisses her forehead.
Oh, he does.
So, but eventually we do see the die disappear, but they were physical. Because they went into her hand.
Was she the only one that saw them?
I mean, technically, I think
if she was the only one that saw them, maybe they were just a hallucination for her then, or they were just for her, just for her to see.
She still was able to feel them, and there was an established touch. Now, I don't know what she felt. Maybe she was in on it, but that's reaching. Come on. So
I think had they stayed permanent, like had they actually been there forever, like had it been the actual
that
dice,
would have been like an actual plot hole. But the fact that he acknowledges it, but still is like, well, yeah, in that situation, it was a physical thing, sort of, kind of. I don't know. It's the Force. Fuck you for trying to figure out how it works.
Even though we've kind of... even though from episode 1 we've already established that the Force is based in some sort of science.
Do you like that?
With the midichlorians? I don't.
Yeah.
It's the one time where I don't like it being based in science because the whole point of Star Wars is that it's a space fantasy, not science fiction. You know, it's a space fantasy.
I think the general consensus is that midichlorians are stupid. And
which is fair. Which is terrible because that is like one of my two movies that I think I like
of the prequels,
especially of the prequels, is episode 1 that I like, and I think it's because I like the idea of Qui-Gon Jinn.
That's a good trick.
I like what? Oh, spinning. Yeah, I like spinning. I like. I know everybody gets really bogged down in all the whole the Space Senate and space politics, and everybody hates that.
Yeah.
But I actually kind of like it because that's more
realistic. It's way better than the
to
sequel trilogy where we just have no idea what's been going on for the last 30 years.
I like the idea that it takes a little bit of like subterfuge and spycraft that Palpatine kind of has to engage in order to like get to where he is.
Right.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's definitely a cooler idea. I like,
now, could
Force
they have made it a little bit more interesting? Yeah.
Force Awakens just has you blow up all of the Republic with Starkiller Base.
Right. And
it's just basically like,
it's a Michael Bay version of A New Hope, in which I'm not a huge fan of.
You guys didn't like the Senate? Cool. We don't either.
Fuck the Senate.
It's all gone.
Fuck that.
You're not gonna know what's going on at all.
I really hate that they brought Palpatine back. I really hate that.
Yeah, for sure.
That just makes Snoke. I mean, he was already pretty stupid to begin with. I mean, he's basically a Sith that can't do anything.
Let's dissect the plan here of Palpatine if you want to start talking about Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
Palpatine
become the Senate.
So Palpatine somehow either survives or is a clone that was brought back by the Sith cultist.
He was definitely a dead body that they reanimated.
Right.
He looks it.
Exactly. He does look terrible.
Reanimated dead body.
Which, I mean, we know that like cloning isn't like a perfect process, and like people do age rapidly, and it had been like 30 years. So
with cloning. Well, no. With the Kaminoans cloning, they stated that a normal clone. Purposely made it a double edge.
That's right.
Because otherwise, they said it would have taken a lifetime to clone. To raise a soldier.
They would have actually had to watch. Wait for them to get old enough
to mature. It would have taken them. It would have taken them twice as long because they would have had to wait for maturity. Right. Yeah. So we know that you can clone things and it doesn't matter. Like you can, especially for the Snoke stuff.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Basically, he comes back after Return of the Jedi.
Right, which was how many years prior to this?
At least 30.
Point? Right,
because they throw around the 30 years.
I mean, Luke's looking,
Han, Leia, everyone's looking 30 years older
rough.
at least.
At least 30.
So let's say 30 years
30.
after. So for 30 years, he's just laying dormant, or he's just been brought back recently.
Well, no, I think he went to that planet, which I forget the name of.
Exegol,
thank you.
Which is not the homeworld of the Sith.
It is not. So
there already was a homeworld of the Sith, and they said, "Fuck you, we're doing Exegol now."
Yeah.
So we want lightning to be happening constantly. Remember how Palpatine did lightning that one time?
Yeah, but this time
Sith lightning. They love lightning, dude. It's always lightning the whole time.
It's real easy to do on After Effects. We already got it down. It's very cheap. So he just spends the next 30-ish years on Exegol making this ridiculous fleet of manned by who knows?
Fuck all. Yeah, I guess these Sith cultists, which you've never heard of.
Right, so we've never heard of which it is. Mm-hmm. It is crewed by them, which I think would be really funny because we've seen the inside of Star Destroyers. We know that there has to be a lot of officers and a lot of enlisted men on there.
I mean, I think every Star Destroyer is like 10,000 guys, right? It's
some
massive,
thousands of people.
Thousands of people on each one.
On it, right? Like, I just can't imagine if you're a Sith cultist, where did you get your training? Like, did you go to the Imperial Academy?
First of all, why are you a Sith cultist? Why are you so into this?
Right.
There's and how many of you are there? I'm okay with there's being like a few hundred or even a few thousand, but like enough to man.
So 100,
an entire fleet.
Not hundreds
we're looking at like hundreds of
Star Destroyers. Just under 1 million people.
Yeah, you're getting a million Sith cultists.
Which I guess if you think about it on an entire planet, like if you could get a million people.
It's not a normal planet, though.
I guess
there's
not,
nothing to eat there. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Maybe they have hydroponics. We just haven't seen it.
Yeah, the whole planet.
You saw where Snoke was. I mean, maybe they just maybe that's just a hydroponics.
I'm
when
saying,
Snoke's
the
not
whole
there.
planet is stone and lightning. That's it. That's the whole
Tasty.
place. So, like, what do they eat?
Tasty.
You know what I
That's all
mean?
I'm
What are
trying
they
to
even
say.
making everything out of? And it's a bitch to get anything in and out. So, because
they're spending trillions of credits every year just on imports.
yeah, just importing stuff.
We're exporting Sith.
But no one knows where to get there.
How to get? Yeah, which I don't.
You need a MacGuffin triangle to get there.
Yeah. So what is it with the whole like navigation triangle?
Sith Wayfinder.
Sith Way triangle. Yeah. What is all that?
Bullshit. That's bullshit.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was just an obstacle that they had to get over in order to.
It was just the first half of the movie.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's
you know what I really no. I think the worst thing about that whole movie, arguably the worst thing, was so you know how like when you fall in quicksand.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where you're going.
So you know when you fall in quicksand, that underneath quicksand is not fucking holes.
Probably something very solid,
or just more quicksand. Yeah, just more sand. I think, right? Because
that's just something that you can't fall through because the quicksand would fall through it.
Right. Don't understand any of that. I think I was in theaters, and that was the one like of that whole movie. I was like, all right, suspension of disbelief. Yeah, I can totally like this is all fine to me. Like I can I'll get behind this whole thing. Like I'm having a great time. I had a fun time in that movie. But that was the part where I'm like, the fuck?
I'm trying to remember the first time that Rise of Skywalker really got at me, and I think it was at the very beginning when Kylo Ren moonwalked into a mushroom man on apparently Mustafar and killed him, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? What am I watching?
When was this?
The very first thing you see is that Kylo Ren is going to get the Sith Wayfinder for himself, and he's going to Vader's castle, which they don't show. And he goes on to Mustafar, which just looks like a weird forest.
Right.
And he kills a bunch of random guys with like big hats. They kind of look like mushroom men to me.
Oh, they looked. They were the
and the
they were like the guards.
Yeah.
The
I guess
were they like the Trade Federation?
Why do they
guards,
care?
Or were they just the Mustafarian
it's been
guards?
30 years since Darth Vader's
I guess
been
they're
there.
still paying the rent. I don't know.
What the fuck are they doing?
No, they're still paying the rent.
Who is?
Palp? Well, he's still Palp. Palp's still paying the rent. He's still alive.
We're getting a lot of foreign credit transactions from an Exegol? What the fuck is that? I don't know. Money's flowing, man. You better watch that castle.
Somebody called the Senate keeps paying his rent. I don't understand.
This PayPal is good. Let's keep going.
Palpatine's PayPal.
It's just dumb. So he's killing that guy, but the way he kills one guy, he moonwalks.
Right.
And with like the hilt of his lightsaber, he like stabs the guy behind him. And I'm like, why are you being so fucking extra, guy?
That means that Michael Jackson is Disney Star Wars canon.
Michael Jackson is canon for Star Wars.
Or
alternative, Adam Driver invented Kylo Ren invented moonwalking for the Star Wars thing.
So Kylo Ren invented moonwalking.
A true visionary.
Or
third option.
No, it's the same option as number one. It's just Michael Jackson is canon.
Michael Jackson is canon in Disney. Okay, I like that.
Canon, we're gonna bring in a whole nother demographic to this podcast and to Star Wars in general.
But that's where I was like, okay, this movie's gonna be stupid.
Like
that's like
5
the
minutes
first
in.
5 seconds of the movie.
Yikes! Nate's like, and I'm gonna head out.
It's bad. Oh, but I was breaking down. I totally forgot. We got on our ridiculous tangent. I was breaking down Palpatine's plan. That was the original
Palpatine's
thing.
plan. Oh, so just keep it. I want like 5 bullet points. Give me 5 bullet point plan.
He comes back.
Right.
But he knows when he comes back, I have a granddaughter somewhere who's powerful in the Force.
Is it
granddaughter?
That. Oh, no, it is granddaughter.
It is granddaughter.
Yeah.
So he has Snoke go get Kylo, who hires a Sith assassin.
Well, hang on.
Again,
we know
ridiculous.
That they like 5 levels. We've talked about this before.
Actually, it's before Kylo. So I guess he just hires a Sith assassin. Which
sure.
Okay, sure, because this is before because this is when Rey is a small child.
Right.
So this is before Adam, Kylo Ren and everything. And if there's no Kylo Ren, there's no need for Snoke, because Snoke was just an elaborate plan to fool Kylo.
He was a bunch of ruse. Yeah. It was just a smoke screen.
No reason for...
No, they just retconned him away.
Hold on. So he goes out, and they know that the parents of the granddaughter are on Jakku. And so they go and get the parents. The parents tell Rey, stay here. We're going to sell you to this alien that's played by Simon Pegg.
Right.
To stay here. They'll never find you.
Great performance by Pegg.
And so they pick up the parents, and they say, where is she? And they go, we'll never tell. And then they kill the parents.
And then they never look.
You know what? They were poor, just desert people. They probably just left her there. Let's go check. Nope, didn't do that for 30 years or 15 or however long.
Yeah, however long
been since
Rey
is a kid
so
to
like
her
15,
adult.
yeah.
Probably 15 to 20.
15-ish years.
Yeah. So Palpatine just lays dormant for the rest of that time.
It sounds like she didn't go more than a couple miles from where she was dropped off. So had the assassin just gone back and just yelled, "Hey, is there a Rey here?"
Or if he just laid down $5, because they're literally Jakku is so poor, they're working for food,
portion.
Not money. They're just working.
Not even full.
They're
food.
working for condensed bread.
Not even full bread. Portions. Of
add
bread.
water
fractional
to this
meals.
powder to get bread. That's what they're working for. So if he walked in with any amount of money and said, show me the girl. Everyone would have been clawing.
They would have been offering up their own children at that point. Yeah,
it would have been so easy. But no, didn't do that. So what he does,
the assassin was only hired to kill them, and then he was like, "Well, my job's done."
What I guess he does is he either directly or he makes Snoke. And then uses Snoke as some kind of clone proxy to infect Kylo Ren's mind. Who was just Ben Solo at the time.
Sure.
To get him to go to the dark side.
Okay.
Which is a pretty shit plan, because the only way it would have worked is if Luke sensed that he was being infected in his mind, decided in a second, maybe I'll kill him, and then said, nah, I won't kill him. But then Ben has to see Luke almost kill him in his sleep, and then go, oh, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
And then revolt.
Right.
End the order.
But you have to inception
And
Ben.
not only that, at that point, Ben not only has to go so far over on the deep end that he goes as far as to killing his dad and everything else, but the plan counts on Luke just going, well, I'm not going to be hero anymore. I'm just going to fuck everything. I'm just going to go
years,
and I'm going to put myself in hiding. Honestly, for as little thought as Palpatine put into this plan, worked out really well for him. So,
yeah. I mean, maybe he just knew the incompetence. He talks about it in the prequels. I mean, he knows that the Jedi are incompetent.
Well, there are some powers of the Force that some might consider to be unnatural.
Unnatural, yeah. Which apparently plan making is what the Sith. I think the Sith just rolled a nat 20.
You read the script. That's
no, he
script
just rolled
reading.
a nat 20 on luck. I think is what happened for Palp, and that's why it works. Because he just keeps rolling nat 20s on every perception check.
So he converts Kylo Ren.
Yep.
And then he continues to use Snoke as a proxy.
Right.
For what purpose?
I mean, maybe
why not just do it himself? Why not him be the guy in the chair?
Maybe he's just ashamed of his look now.
Snoke looked like an ugly motherfucker too.
He really did.
Yeah, he had a broken face.
Yeah,
he was all bald.
If you're
gonna
use a proxy, use a beautiful one.
Yeah,
really woo us.
It's clear that
they flip-flopped.
It's just a retcon that they just shoehorned Palpatine at the end because they wanted a big bad.
They were like, Palpatine, you know what people really liked about the prequels? Palpatine. Let's bring him back. Immediately. They loved him. Not the whole first episode. Not that one.
And
but everything
final
else.
order.
Yeah, the final. Man, they
Jesus
really
Christ.
wanted that. That was, I feel like this whole movie was just for Palpatine to say that.
Yep.
That was it.
And not only that, but JJ's got to raise the stakes again.
JJ's got a JJ.
So not only did JJ make the Death Star into a planet-sized Death Star that could blow up 5 planets opposed to 1.
And destroy a sun.
Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
He's got to make every Star Destroyer, so there's 100 of them.
Right.
They all can have Death Star tech. They
Right.
all can blow up a
So
planet.
they're all super.
All planets can be destroyed
Right.
now. Yeah, that's
Man, the stakes, bro. Just the stakes. And not only, I love the idea. This is another thing about like Star Wars that just cracks me up because we've seen it a couple times now where like everything is controlled by one thing. Like, and so they just have to, and that's like the only way the rebel cause ever works is because we just have to attack this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, as long as they don't move the one thing, we're good. And and the Empire's like, well, maybe we'll just move the one thing. And then you have to move, and then what we'll do is we'll move the one thing a little bit, like just over here. And then that way you just have to slightly change trajectory, and then you can still kill us.
See, that's the problem with like the sequel trilogy is that like they're just full of either contrivances or they just like these shitty little explanations for everything.
Yeah, they're just kind of like shoot away. They're just like, yeah, this is kind of what we're doing here. Just gonna fuck you. Yeah.
It's like in Rise of Skywalker, they go, Exegol, the ships can't tell up from down out there. So
it's the Bermuda Triangle out here.
So they have to navigate from this one tower. If we take that tower out, they're fucked.
That's what I'm saying. That's what the same thing with like the battle droids on Naboo.
Yeah.
During episode 1. Why the fuck would you control your battle droids like that?
Especially when we're kind of shown that they have like an individual, like droids are normally have an individual personality to them.
I guess
and
by that time we hadn't seen that.
That's not true.
Like episode 1, we had not seen battle droids kind of like with their own.
Not battle droids, but like all the astromech, all the R2 units,
all the regular like
they all have their own little personality
droids and all that. Yeah, they had their own.
There's nothing
kind of
special about R2D2 and C3PO other than the situations they're placed in.
Yeah,
they're not special droids. They're not expensive.
I guess the one difference I could see is that
C3PO is literally owned by a slave. He can't be expensive.
That's true.
Like by definition,
he was basically made out of garbage. Yeah,
if he was expensive, he would have been sold.
Right. Which, by the way, that dude, you have to imagine that C-3PO was built on like a shoestring budget, right?
Yeah, because he was owned by a slave.
Right.
So there's no way he was expensive.
That means, like, if you think about it, like his reliability through the roof, assuming he hasn't had any kind of like crazy overhauls. Anakin did a great job.
I guess Luke cleans R2D2 in A New Hope.
Yeah, like fucking how many years later after he was made?
Seems like the one that needs to be cleaned because he's got like all the weird joints and he has to walk.
No, he's the one that gets cleaned.
No, it's he does get dipped, right?
Dipped. R2 gets cleaned, but like by hand.
Yeah, it's like all okay.
He gets
fair
cleaned
enough.
with a fucking flathead, and then C-3PO gets the whole fucking bath.
This one's got a bad motivator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I guess Star Wars has always had dumb lines like that.
Yeah,
it's never gotten away from it.
No, I was trying to think of like so we can agree that Rise of Skywalker just bad, just overall bad.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, it's not just that movie.
I'll honestly, I've been thinking about it a little bit more. I will say like I have a nostalgic like for episode 1, but if we're talking about just what is a good movie, shit, I think I'm stuck at just Empire, because even if you think about New Hope, it's not, the story's not.
What's wrong with it? Classic hero's journey.
Well, it is a hero's journey. I'll give you that. I mean, but I think like it's really hard for me to believe that the way that like things turned out. So we have an unhappy kid farmer guy who just doesn't want to be where he is. I get that. So,
he wants to go sell power converters with I don't remember.
Somebody.
You remember the line that he says?
He wants to go. No. He wants to go buy some. Yeah, he wants to go buy some power converters with. Oh shit! Who is it?
They were gonna go. Me and my friends were gonna go down to blank place to go buy some power converters.
Space Radio Shack and go buy some stuff. Yeah. So he gets away. He has his droids lead on a merry chase. He meets this old wizard. Old wizard tells him who he kind of is, and then his one obligation to stay on Tatooine is killed.
Sure,
right,
but it makes
sense. Now he has no ties.
It's not. Here's the thing: the plot makes sense. There's no like large contrivances, and there's no just gaping plot holes.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie to watch. It's intriguing.
Yeah,
it grasps you. You don't know where it's gonna go because you don't know anything. You got to think about this when you first watch it.
Sure, yeah.
So you don't know where this is gonna go. You don't know what's happening, and it's all intriguing. All these new environments, and the plot makes sense. That's really all I'm asking.
So I guess the reason why I don't like it is because of all the bad retconning and scene adding that they did to it.
Well,
like,
sure,
it's the
but
most
yeah,
modded.
That's
Star Wars.
Even with that though, it's I mean, what are you getting? You're getting Han shot
it
second,
changes
which is a
all
little
of
shitty.
Han's, it changes his entire like image, right? It changes all of what we want, all of what we understand about him in the beginning.
I think it changes it if you wanted to change it.
There we go.
Because honestly, because I get that him shooting first made him into
between shooting first and killing a guy to get him out of your way and shooting him somebody in self-defense.
I love the idea that the last thing that Greedo says is McClunky,
which was an added scene.
Was it really?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, that
I don't
sucks.
think that was original.
Well, it's still so no one knows what McClunky means.
Yeah, because the original line, if I recall correctly, it was.
No, I think it was in it from the beginning because the whole idea behind it was that
it's an insult. They had to make up an insult that Greedo says to Han so that he shoots
first.
Maybe.
That's my whole point.
What the thing is that I'm guessing him saying McClunky in the original, like when I first see it.
Well, come on, when was the last time
you're gonna have to look it up? This is bad.
Well, my whole point is that the last thing that Greedo says is McClunky.
Right.
And no one knows what that means.
Yeah.
But it's inferred that it caused them to get shot and die.
Right.
So it's obviously a
yeah.
very offensive term.
Fuck you, bro.
How the fuck do I look up McClunky? I don't know what the
just
fuck you're expecting it from me.
I don't know. Just
McClunky?
I don't know.
It is a thing.
Yeah. Was it the original line, or did they just like add that in there? I want to hear it.
Greedo's such a funny looking little fucker, dude.
He really is.
It's great, and the idea of him saying McClunky is even greater.
Yeah.
There's a lot to read here. Yeah, I don't know.
I forget. Is he Rhodian as well?
Yeah.
So is it not Rhodian for something?
Well, I'm sure, but I don't think we have a full.
Fuck your mom
we don't have a full lexicon of Rhodian.
Oh, we don't. Yeah. Dang it.
So McClunky could mean whatever.
I looked on my D&D sheet. I do not speak Rhodian. Sorry, guys.
Oh no.
Cringy.
Well, okay. So we've kind of talked about the movies.
Yeah.
What we like. I think New Hope is good. I think you can call that a good movie. Especially, I mean, like that movie is what made. I mean, because George Lucas had no plan to make the rest of them.
I will say one thing about it is that all those old trilogy, they age really well.
Mm-hmm.
They
did an amazing job.
Really good.
Yeah. All the matte paintings that they did.
Yeah. I don't like. I rewatch those pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And I never once am I'm like, do I have a hard time watching it? Like there are I think there are probably a lot of movies from that era, like 70s, 80s. I think a lot of people, especially our age, would have a hard time watching them. Just because,
I'm curious to see what, like, someone who's never watched
practical effects are
the original trilogy, like what they're, especially someone who like likes movies a lot but had never seen the original trilogy. Right. Because most people I know who have never seen the original Star Wars don't give a shit about movies in general, so it's not.
Yeah,
they'll just watch it and go,
the audience
wow, okay, whatever.
To go out there and watch it. Yeah.
But somebody who like actually cares and has like a critical kind of thought process towards
somebody who has an appreciation for cinema in general.
But and has never seen the original trilogy,
which would be a hard thing to find.
That would be an interesting
Star
thing
Wars
to see.
Has permeated. God, if you could find, I think you'd be hard pressed to find any kind of like popular show that doesn't make a Star Wars reference in it at some point.
Right.
Like either in physicality or in just straight up like phrases or just
something,
any kind of spoken word or like just anything.
So I guess my real segue here is that we're not super happy with where Star Wars has been.
No,
recently.
I think Kathleen Kennedy has just totally fucked up LucasArts. Like her direction. Like, well, I don't. Is it just I get that it's. I think it's got to just be a money grab at this point,
I don't
right?
know. I mean, well, of course, all of it is. Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, you could also look at. I mean, maybe it is Kathleen Kennedy's fault. Maybe
how
if
bad
Kevin
does it
Feige,
have to be?
Because how
bad does it have to be where they're like, let's get George Lucas back in on this? Like how? I mean, he advises for a lot of this stuff, but like, how bad does your directing and does your producing have to be? Where
that's
you're like,
the
let's
real
bring
thing.
George Lucas back.
It actually like is it Disney's fault or did we just get
Disney's
a bad
fault.
director? Well,
it's still Disney's responsibility.
Well, sure. Okay. At the end of the day, it's Disney's quote unquote fault.
Yeah,
but
I mean, they own the IP. They take responsibility.
When I say is it Disney's fault, is it like did JJ have a true good vision for Star Wars, and then Disney come in and have to change it so that it was more marketable, or that it appealed to more audiences, or it tested better. That's what I mean by, is it Disney's fault, or did Disney just pick JJ and JD did a shitty job? That's the question.
If I had to guess, I think that they wanted it to be a Disney-run storyline that was they liked the way he directs things.
Sure.
And I think they simply got him. Well, first they probably threw a lot of money at him.
Yeah.
Which probably was very
helpful. Because they offered him the whole
determination.
trilogy originally, and he said no.
Well, same thing with Ryan
Johnson.
Brian Johnson. Yeah.
Ryan Johnson.
Ryan Johnson. Sorry, with Ryan Johnson, the director of.
To an extent, they offered him a separate trilogy.
Right. But what I'm saying was that they
not 7, 8, 9.
Right. What I'm saying is that their bargaining chip for them offering being the director was say, hey, look, you direct this picture, we will offer you an entire trilogy just for you, which is a hard thing to turn down because Star Wars is going to make money. That is that'll make.
Well, yeah, and it's
good.
Disney; they can pay you up front.
Yeah, they'll be like, hey, man, here's X amount, you fill that shit in later. Like they'll give you a blank check. That's what it is. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of rules with working Disney. From what I understand, there is a shit ton of rules, and if you break any of them, you're fucked forever.
Well, here's my point. Is that I have a trouble outright blaming Disney, because at the same time as all these, since 2015, since we started with the reboots on Star Wars, we've gotten a lot of great Marvel movies, which has been owned by Disney the whole time.
That's true.
So,
who's directing those now? I forget who directed those.
Okay, so Kevin Feige is like the overall, I guess, like,
who also works with the Star Wars franchise, correct?
I don't think so. Maybe he has recently, but Kevin Feige has been in charge of like the Marvel shit.
Who directed the show, the Star Wars, the Clone Wars show?
Oh, that's Jon Favreau.
No, I thought.
Wait, Star Wars, the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of the Mandalorian.
That is Feige, I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea. I didn't think so. He's not. I don't think he's a director. He's like,
or the producer, maybe.
No, not an individual producer. It'd be more of like a. It's a more higher position than that, because I don't even know what you really call it, because the positions that Kevin Feige
like the director
and
because he was the one that was like,
well, he's not directing an episode or a movie. He's like directing a department of people to make sure that these products, are meet expectations.
Dave Filoni. That's it. Filoni. Sorry.
Yeah, I know that. He's done a lot of Star Wars stuff, actually. That makes sense. In fact, I think he has a physical appearance in The Mandalorian. He's one of the X-Wing fighters in that episode where Bill Burr is on.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really crazy? Did you know George Lucas has a role in episode... Yikes, which one was it? He plays...
Dax from Dax Diner.
No. He plays a senator from... Oh, man.
Oh, in
really
one of the prequels, though.
Yeah, one of the prequel films. I'm really trying to remember the planet's name. Oh, man. They have a whole episode dedicated to it in Clone Wars. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyways, he plays like a dignitary or like a
but
senator.
He's just like a speaking role, right? Like the guy's CGI.
He's like in a suit. Yeah, he just has.
He's in a suit. Oh shit.
Or I guess he's in makeup. I don't think he.
Oh, not CGI.
No.
This is like in episode 1.
I think it's episode 2. It's like half a second of it. He's not like.
Yeah. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
But so I kind of want to talk a little bit about the future of Star Wars, where Star Wars is kind of going,
or the lack thereof.
Well, yeah, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I don't even know if Rian Johnson still has his quote unquote trilogy.
Yeah. I'd be surprised. Well, we know. Well, okay, so we knew who else was offered a trilogy, and then it got it revoked.
Well. Originally, episode 9 was supposed to be directed by Colin Trevorrow, who's been doing all the Jurassic World stuff.
Right, and Jurassic World fucking died. So.
Well, it made a lot of money.
It made a lot of money, but nobody talks about it. Yeah.
In fact, they're gonna do another one.
Are they doing another one?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But
another series. That
so I understand
the
money there. The money difference. Maybe he just already signed the contract for Jurassic World, because I remember Jurassic World came out around the time that like 2015, 2016.
About the same time, yeah.
And so he might have already signed another deal, and he just didn't have enough time. Like he literally
scheduling conflicts.
To do episode 9.
Yeah.
But the
I'm curious where you want the series to go.
God, I mean,
we're done with the Skywalkers, which I'm fine with. I'd be super down, and I'd be really excited if we did like an Old Republic thing, because
there's been a lot of talk about that kind of stuff.
I think everybody'd be like, all right, cool, clean slate. We're back to old Jedis, old Sith, big land battles. I mean, it would be essentially like a Lord of the Rings in space.
I just don't know enough about that to really say like that's what I want. You know what I mean?
No, I just think it'd be a cool place to explore.
I know
it's totally separate. Like it's separated by 1,000, over 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want them to do different new stuff. I know that, obviously they're going to do more seasons of The Mandalorian, and then
super stoked about
they're doing a season 7 of Clone Wars.
Yep.
Which will finally show like Order 66 and all that stuff from different perspectives.
Which will be that'll be. I mean, it'll be super depressing, but it'll be super cool. Yeah.
And then other than that, I wanted to see, and then there's talk about the Obi-Wan show.
Oh, right. Well, that's definitely happening.
Well,
that was confirmed.
I'm not, as of right now, I hope so, but it's kind of, I think, been in a little bit of development hell, as far as actually getting made and filmed and done. Which, to be fair, so did The Mandalorian.
Yeah. I was going to say, most of these shows...
Because The Mandalorian was supposed to be a show about about Boba Fett, specifically originally.
Oh, man. The guy who played Boba Fett's probably real upset about that.
Well, it wouldn't have been the guy who actually played Boba Fett, because that guy is, like, probably 60 years old now.
No.
It would have been the actual kid who played the son.
Right.
It would have been the kid who played the son in the prequels, probably.
Right, that guy, which I forget his name.
I don't know either. But he's in his 30s now. Yeah, I think. And actually, what do you mean? He probably would be much older than us.
I actually saw him at Dragon Con a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what he's been doing for the last
Daniel
15 years.
Daniel Logan. Daniel.
He's
something?
Just been doing
He's literally been milking it the whole
circuit.
time.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, man.
Yeah, no
reason for you to work a real job.
Totally respect the hustle. Holy shit! Like that man had like a combined screen time of like 10 minutes.
It's like the same. It's like the guy who plays Chewbacca and the guy who plays C-3PO. It's like they're always going to sign up for another movie because it's like.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like C-3PO, like the guy who does him, Anthony Daniels.
That's his name.
He does the voice for C-3PO on the Clone Wars show.
Right. They're going to accept every deal they can get.
Yeah. I mean, he'll milk that forever. And I think actually the guy who played Chewbacca, which I forget his name now, was like Leonard something. I forget what his name was. Leonard Nimoy. No, but God damn, this is so terrible because he actually died like I think the last couple of years.
Was it different guy in Rise of Skywalker? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a new guy starting from
the
Force Awakens.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah. And actually, I guess technically Chewbacca was in Revenge of the Sith, right? Technically speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe it was a new guy there.
And I think all the Wookiees
were all
played,
like NFL players or like Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. So that they were all real
people.
What did I say? You said NFL.
Oh, definitely not NFL.
Well, yeah,
NBA,
probably not.
Yeah,
NBA. Nate knows sports. Sports ball.
Real good at the sports ball. No, it's just it's interesting to think about. I don't know. I think that they should definitely take some time off. I mean, it's weird to think that there was only actually a 10-year gap in between Revenge of the Sith and then The Force Awakens.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's opposed to the
as opposed to the several
18-year gap from 83 to 99.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big. I don't know. It's really not that much long. I don't know if they need to wait 10 years.
Well, I think in today's today's cinema,
sure.
like 10 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I mean
they'll probably.
That's like saying we got to go back. Like if you had to use a computer from 10 years ago, that'd be rough.
They'll probably have another like mainline Star Wars movie out as of like 2022.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe even 2021.
I would not have a problem with them doing shows that explored the greater universe of Star Wars. Like if we had a show where we explored, more bounty hunting or, how I even think that you could probably do a show. I think it'd be difficult, but you could probably do like a Han Solo thing, like a Han Solo adventure show or something like that.
I'm good.
No, okay, just none of that.
Don't. I think.
So none of those characters.
Yeah,
I guess you're right because it would just run into the whole.
Obi-Wan should
shit.
be the end of it, really, because what you're going to happen is that all three trilogies are so separate from each other. They don't work together logically. That you're gonna, like the Clone Wars has to do now, is that they have to spend all their time trying to explain how certain things happen.
Yeah, which is crazy because if you think about it, the Clone Wars, a lot happens in that gap. Like a crazy amount of things happen.
A lot.
Like it's really funny because if you look at the timeline, it's like nothing happens for like 1,000 years, and then holy shit for like 30 years, it's crazy.
Yep.
Like it is absolute just dog shit. Oh my
Actually,
god,
more like
happening?
60, I guess, because it's probably
you're right, 60.
From Phantom Menace to Rise of Skywalker, that's probably like a 60-year timeline.
Then we're saying that would that be 60?
It's got to be more actually, because from it has to, because in like think of like Leia and Luke.
Yeah.
Leia and Luke are born at the end of Revenge of the Sith, which is easily 20 years before the Phantom Menace, maybe 15, because obviously Phantom Menace starts with Anakin being a young kid, and then he is like in his mid-20s, I guess, or he's an adult.
I think the one thing that doesn't make any sense that everybody talks about is like the age difference between Episode 3 of Obi-Wan and then Episode 4 of Obi-Wan.
Man, that's that desert sun.
It's that desert sun, man. He's just getting
turned him right into Alec Guinness, just right into him.
He's getting this rough out there, man. He's just raw dogging.
No, I know. I guess it's like 20 years. I mean,
it's gotta be. At least.
It's just that's the whole point, right? Is that once you start thinking about how things tie in together, you have all these questions and they're not really answered. And so if you start making shows about, if they're making a show about Obi-Wan, which is going to be spending a lot of time explaining a lot of questions,
right?
Because you have to make Obi-Wan,
you have to make him,
you have to make McGregor turn into Alec Guinness.
Well, you have to make his life interesting in the desert. Like, what the fuck was he doing?
Even though it's alluded to by third and fourth movies that he just stayed there the whole time.
Well, I forget what he was. So they actually have Obi-Wan in the Star Wars Rebel show, which we haven't really talked about at all.
Yeah, he does some stuff. He fights Darth Maul again,
which we all know. But so he is in that. So they must have some. Now, to be fair, I have not watched Star Wars Rebels, and I don't know how he ties in. I don't know how many episodes he's in. But, I'm assuming that they have some explanation of what he's been doing out there the whole time.
Yeah, he's not in a lot. He's certainly far from a main character.
Yeah.
He's in and around. He does his own stuff.
Obi-Wan and around.
But that still doesn't fully explain. It doesn't show him it doesn't show Obi-Wan going around on different planets having adventures.
No,
it's more
of like
a one-off thing. So it's tough, but all shows that you would do about characters that already exist in the Star Wars canon will have this problem of trying to explain where they are, what they're doing, and how it all ties into what they're already established to have been doing. Yeah. And so they should just stay away from all that.
No, great. And that's why I'm super stoked if they did like an Old Republic thing, because that's really the only other area, in my opinion, that everybody that
unless they come up with something original.
Oh, no, we can't do that. That's impossible. That everybody's kind of been exposed to,
right?
And that has been well received. Like, I don't think anybody would be like, no, fuck Old Republic. That'd be terrible.
It's not the same, though, because, the sequel trilogy has been criticized much more heavily than Knights of the Old Republic because much more people have been exposed to it. And when you start comparing video game storylines to movie storylines,
it doesn't quite add up.
It's not comparable.
Now we're talking about stories that we can control versus stories we can't, and that we're like,
well, sure, I get what you mean by control. But it's just I don't know enough about it. Maybe Knights of the Old Republic is great, and it would be a great thing to adapt. I just don't know.
Well, I think it would marry the two things that everybody likes about Star Wars, which is fucking lightsaber battles.
Yeah, pretty
super
cool.
fun,
pretty cool.
A lot of good times, good memes, and good story, which everybody likes in a Star Wars show.
Sure,
in a Star Wars movie.
I still don't know if it does.
Yeah. Well, it has a lot of lore. Like, there's a lot of lore there because that's like the prime time.
Prequels had a lot of lore. It's not all that makes into a story. There's more stuff to it.
No, but what I'm saying is like that's like prime. Like it's. I think for a show like for a movie that takes place, like it's really fun to be kind of in the middle of a war, like in the middle of a conflict that's happening. And like with Star Wars, like you start like kind of just before the conflict, the beginning of a conflict. And then, like, you have, like, all of the Clone Wars, right?
Well, I guess, like, the original trilogy kind of just drops you in. And so I get what you mean.
Yeah, it just drops you into this major conflict that we have.
Resolves it. It doesn't really focus on the origins of it at all.
Which is that's kind of what I want with the Old Republic is, like, you have this whole thing where, like, we're fighting. Like, there are two factions. You have a lot of Sith and a lot of Jedi, and we're fucking fighting.
No, like I said, it very well could work. Yeah. It could be great, yeah. I just don't know. I just want them to kind of hopefully do something new with it. But
I mean, if
promises there.
Like if Disney comes up to you tomorrow, Nate, and they're like, "Hey, man, we saw the podcast, and
thanks,
and we want to offer.
Would you mind sponsoring the podcast?
And we want to offer you, like we do with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We would like to offer you a complete trilogy of films. What would be your first step? Where would you go with that? Did you do you do research? Like, how do you come up with something original for Star Wars?
I just probably meme it.
Nate's over here like, you know what we're gonna call it? Star Wars: Rise of McClunky.
Rise of McClunky.
McClunky, yeah.
I have no idea.
Nate's gonna have a new Star Wars. It's gonna be called Star Wars: A Droid's Tale.
Yeah. I'd make it about Mace Windu's windows.
Hang on.
Mace Windu's.
Mace Windu's older brother, Mace Windu.
Mace Windu's.
Yeah, Mace Windu's.
10.
The shittier version, or actually no, the less shittier version of Mace Vista.
He's oh Jesus, oh Christ, see, that's the great thing about like criticizing is that I don't have to fucking know what I would do in their situation. Yeah. Just something better than that. I'd like to think. Yeah.
No, I'm saying like I don't want to know what your idea would be for a new trilogy. I'm just saying like what would you be even your first step in trying to develop something original for Star Wars? Like do you go into the lore and then do you find a gap and try to fill it, or do you simply like go?
Well, I think you're looking at originality wrong because you're immediately saying what would you do to think of something original, and then you're immediately jumping to something that's established. Yeah. So it's like,
well, I mean, it could still be an original idea.
It's like asking, hey, how do you write that book that you've never that you just wrote out of nowhere, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
You don't go,
okay, hang on. It's a little different from that because you're already working with an established framework of Star Wars. Like we know what our limitations are. The Last Jedi pretty much threw all those limitations out the window, but in terms of like what the internal consistency.
Oh yeah, those have been gone for a while.
But what I'm saying is like you already kind of know like, okay, we're in the Star Wars universe, but like how do you where would you want to go? Like what part of Star Wars do you want to explore?
Well, gosh, yeah, I mean that's tough. I've always liked the OT did like gritty sci-fi really like I say gritty as in like not
grainy grainy sci-fi
just as in literally everything's kind of dirty and like it's not a fun good place to live in like Star Trek or like other like utopia style.
I think The Mandalorian kind of has that same type of feel.
Yeah, it definitely does. And so I think you should double down to that. That's part of where the prequels
like where they were going to do a game of the course. What is it? Level 13,
yeah.
Yeah, where it was kind of like a grittier underworld type thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can do Star Wars without the Force. The Force is such a hard thing to write around because every new movie there's a new thing that they can do with it. Yeah. So there's no rules without any proper limitations on it, and it's just messy to write around.
I mean, I'd be fine with the whole no limitations thing if there's a cost to it, right?
Well, that's a limitation.
Well, no, what I'm saying is like you can do whatever you. Well, you're right. It is a limitation. You're right. But what I'm saying is like as long as the like. It's hard for me to identify Rey being able to do all this crazy shit because she just does it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mary Sue syndrome, where she just like all this is like, oh, I have this power. Like she didn't do anything to unlock that.
It's hilarious.
There's no paid wall for that shit.
Especially about Rise of Skywalker is that she does force healing on the worm,
right? Which is a waste.
Reason, which I guess the worm is cognizant enough to go, oh shit, she just force healed me. I should leave them alone.
Should probably be cool.
Here's the door, actually. Fuck. I mean, that was
you
really
guys just fell through sand.
That was really chill that you guys just did that. I don't need to eat. Y'all can just go on.
You know what? I'm even sorry for wasting you guys' time.
Not only does she force heal, she even says afterwards, like, yeah, I transferred a little bit of my force energy into it and healed it. Bish, bash, boom. Fine, that's fine, whatever.
We're all like, say what now?
No, okay, so but she's established that it takes something. Like it takes away from her to force heal.
Right. Not quite like what we did in The Witcher, but
then she force heals Kylo from a mortal wound, and she's fine. No apparent lack in strength
she's
or
not dead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't. Yeah.
Well,
there's been no.
She does die for a minute, but not from that.
Not
maybe?
From that.
Yeah.
No. She technically dies from Palpatine much later on at the end of the movie, and then Kylo force heals her,
right,
and dies from that,
right,
and she's fine. Why did he die?
Right. Well, because
I don't know. Yeah, because he tried to kill. He killed Han
Kathleen
and tried
Kennedy
to kill Leia and
kill that bitch.
And he was like, "Well, we can't have both you guys laying around." You know,
yeah.
He went a little too far.
Did you hate the scene? I mean, I can probably guess that you did.
Yes.
But, okay. Never mind. All right. Moving on.
You mean where Orlando shot the stormtrooper with a makeshift crossbow and killed him in one shot?
No, I figured you'd appreciate that a little bit, just given.
And all the little townspeople didn't give a fuck that a man just died in their festival.
Super didn't give a. They were like, "All right, so back to partying."
Those little hippo people were like, "What's Ray's last name? I really want to know."
I'm also watching this.
A man just died.
Get your priorities in order here. Jesus Christ, guy, come on. Yeah, no, not at all. No, the scene, fuck, now I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it, Nate. This is what happens when we get off on horrible tangents where we just stupid. Oh, I remembered.
Yep.
Where it was such a fucking stupid scene where she's back on Tatooine and she's sitting at the hut and she's just like, I say the hut, the little
moisture farm.
The moisture farm. Yeah. Where
Luke Owen and Aunt Beru
where they fucking toasted. Yeah. Just burnt marshmallows, man. So she's just like back there and she's just like, and some lady fucking comes up and she's like, "Hey, who are you?" And she's like,
"Ray." "Ray who?" "Fuck you, old bitch." Like, you walking up on people asking their names?
Why do you need a last name?
I'm in an abandoned moisture farm on this backwards ass place.
What's your next question? Like, what's your mother's maiden name? Like, what's your social? What are the last 4 digits on your?
She doesn't have one. She just walks off after that.
No, yeah, I don't understand.
Your full name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Skywalker. Great.
Cool.
See you later.
That's all I needed. Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
I don't have another line after that. So.
I'm a desert woman. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. All the sand people are dead now, so we're cool to just
To be honest,
roam.
I don't know what I expected. I don't know anyone around here. This is an abandoned
You're the
moisture
first
farm.
person I've seen in days.
I just figured it was polite
water,
to ask your full
Do you have any
name.
blue milk? I need some of that. Which is super funny to me.
Fucking blue milk. I was listening to a thing where
God.
some guys went to the new Star Wars park in Disney World.
Galaxy's Edge.
Yes, and they sell blue milk down there.
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they?
And apparently it's just a blue slushy. Like it's so
is
shitty.
that it?
Yeah,
Like
it's
if
not
you're gonna
even
make
like
a blue milk, at least just dye milk blue.
Well, you want it to be good.
No, no. And so you go with slushy.
Well, like in the Harry Potter world, they have that butter beer.
Yeah, which
is apparently is like really good and like very different.
It's just like creamy root beer.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's just like super creamy.
Okay, I've never
root beer.
had it. I just heard that it was like
that's
different.
Good. No, it's really good. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah,
but I just thought maybe they put more like time into making that than they did the blue slushy. Blue milk.
No, I feel like they were just like, hey, Icy makes a blue thing.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Yeah. Well, do we own Icy?
Man.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah.
Yeah, I guess Star Wars is probably just done. To be honest,
it probably needs a bit of a rest. Yeah, I think we've beat that meat a little too hard.
Well, the thing is that Disney's never going to sell it because Disney never sells anything.
No.
They hold on to everything.
No.
So, they're just going to keep making shitty movies because Rise of Skywalker made lots of money.
They have to sell that Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah.
They need more.
And Rise of Skywalker got generally good reviews from audiences. Like its audience Rotten Tomato score.
Can I guess at its Rotten Tomato score?
I can look it up, but yeah, sure.
I'm gonna guess it got a 45%.
That's a little low, I think.
You think it's a little low? All right, I'm gonna get. Okay, in that case, what do you think? 55, 60, somewhere?
I've kind of seen it, so I'm not like a
all right, well, in
completely
that case,
biased.
I will revise my estimate to a 58%.
58. So second guess is a 58. That's probably a little high
58. Too. Let's see.
I think it is.
Ooh.
It's sitting at a 52 right now.
Ooh, dang.
So kind of right in the middle where you were saying.
Right in the middle of my range.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so audience score is 86%.
I'm
so
curious.
most people who saw it liked it.
Right.
That's out of almost 100,000 ratings.
I'm curious. What is the Rotten Tomato score? Which I don't know if we can say that, but what is the what did like episode 1 get, or what episode 2? Like, what did the prequels get? I'm curious. Like, it's a totally different audience.
Yeah, and it's had a lot more time.
A lot more time.
You know.
Yeah, I'm just curious where it's sitting. I'm gonna guess episode 1's sitting at like 70%.
Episode 2 is sitting at 65%.
Episode 2 is sitting at 65.
Man, LucasArts was buying votes out back then. Audience score 56%.
Wow, low. Oh, wow.
Not as good.
What about episode 1? Curious. I'm gonna guess episode 1's sitting at like 60,
I think the
70.
episode 1 was one of the lowest ones.
Really?
Yeah, I remember most people shit on that one the most.
Well, I know that a lot of people shat on it like when it first, like after it came out, like pretty soon after.
I fucking can't spell Phantom, apparently.
Yikes. He's typing with one hand.
What the? Am I dumb? No, that's how you spell Phantom. It's just not coming up.
The Phantom Menace never happened. It was just a figment of all of our... We just Mandela affected all of our brains.
I'm just going to type in Star Wars.
Just Star Wars Episode 1. Just type on Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon.
That's all we need to know. That man is a legend.
Let's see here. Rise of Skywalker is sitting at a 52%. Did we just say that?
We did.
Okay. Last Jedi still at 91, which is mind-boggling.
91.
That's insane.
Jesus.
Even Solo has a 70, which is way too high. Rogue One has an 83%, also way too high.
Wow.
Rogue One's just a lame-ass movie.
What is Force Awakens have?
93.
Jesus Christ.
Might be. Yeah, that's the highest out of all of them.
What does the
Clone Wars?
Oh
no!
Movie?
The Clone Wars movie, circa 2008.
Nice.
You want to guess what that's sitting at?
Ooh, I'm gonna guess it's at 45%.
Oh, I wish. It's at 18%.
18.
18.
Ooh, I just saw that recently before I started the new series.
You started with that.
I started with that.
Is it on Disney Plus?
That's the prequel, or that's the.
Well, sure.
Yeah, it's all on Disney Plus. Yeah. Yeah, so I started with that. I don't think it deserves 18%. What's the crowd score on that one?
It's got to be higher, but
it's got to be 18%.
39.
It's still really low.
Yeah,
I don't know if it deserves that. Like, I think it deserves a solid 50-something%.
Especially as the Clone Wars TV show has an overall 94%.
Right, and it's really not that much different. It's pretty much just a longer episode.
It's a little different.
I guess so.
Revenge of the Sith has 80%.
Oh, wow.
And then episode 265, like I said.
What is episode 1? Is that episode
53.
53.
So those are all pretty like lenient. Those are pretty generous.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Especially
what about the original trilogy? Did they have scores?
OG trilogy, Empire has an 94, Return of the Jedi has an 82, and A New Hope has a 93.
Wow. Okay. Do you think a lot of that is pretty generous, just nostalgia, or?
Yeah, those 6 or 7% that are like against it are probably contrarians.
How do you gauge scores that have been given to films that are that much older?
Well, Rotten Tomatoes isn't even that old, so I don't know
that's
how.
What I'm saying, yeah.
I don't know if they use.
Like, how do they judge those films?
Well, as far as like a critic looking back on them,
yeah,
it's
like
tough.
Like at this point, we pretty much weeded out anybody who doesn't care. Like, I feel like you're either a fan, you either like the OG trilogy.
Yeah, it's hard. I think a lot of these are just probably critics trying to flesh out their repertoire. They're trying to
just build.
Yeah,
just
say
build,
I reviewed that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, I got it. Yeah.
It's because it's probably the easy thing to overall review. Read a quick snippet
I
for.
Also like Star Wars.
And then the people who didn't like it are most likely just contrarians or people who always were didn't like Star Wars as a concept.
Contrarians.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know any of those.
Yeah. Never. Can't imagine what one of those looks like.
So all in all, Star Wars bad.
You know what?
Maybe good later.
Maybe
that's the consensus we've come to.
Like, just to wrap this up a little bit, I think where I'm standing now is that I'm obviously, we were big fans of the original trilogy because we saw them as kids, and I think I was a big fan of the prequels because again, we were kids.
Yeah,
well, fuck me, I guess. So I like them because we grew up. Again, that was when those came out when we were growing up.
Of course.
And those are a lot of fun to watch because they have lightsaber scenes. I mean, they have some great. Yeah, well, and that's not it. I think that the characters that they brought in those films they were memorable, even if they were short lived. They're very memorable. And then I think right now I feel like I'm one of those people that I was a big fan, and I'm like, all right, we still have time to turn it around. We can still turn it around. We can still make some good Star Wars content. Like the Mandalorian kind of teased me with it a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, ah, shit, this is really good. I'm really enjoying this. I've seen Star Wars: The Clone Wars again. Another thing that kind of teased, we're like, oh, okay, this is good. Star Wars can be good again. And then with this new series or this new trilogy, I'm just like, I've almost given up at this point. I'm almost and I still want to enjoy it, so I'm still going into the theaters. I'm still watching them, but I when I go in there, my expectations are so low.
Yeah,
I mean, I almost have none. I'm just I'm gonna go in there just to watch. People talk about Star Wars. That's
I'm hate watching at this point.
I'm watching this because I'm like, you know what? It's Tuesday and I got nothing. And I got it's a free ticket. That's why I'm going to watch it. I'm not going in there on on release night.
Yeah.
Oh my God, fanboying, drooling, slobbering over it.
Right.
Not at all. It's very much you know what? I feel like a parent taking my kid to a movie I don't want to see at this point.
The kid, you're the parent.
Except I'm both the parent and the kid.
Yeah, the kid is just nostalgia.
The kid is just my nostalgia that I'm dragging along to the film. Yeah, exactly. It just gets bad at this point.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're in a dark time.
Yeah,
for old Star Wars, and who knows if we'll ever truly get it back. But there's plenty of good stuff being made all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about The Mandalorian. I mean, do I want it to be 10 minutes longer per episode? Yes, but am I okay with the whole spaghetti western type
serial
format?
Yeah,
I think it's great. It's a great melding of Star Wars and kind of old television, which I thought was kind of cool. I'm really enjoying that. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my rewatching of the Clone Wars for sure.
Plus the new season.
Plus the new season in February. Yeah, I'm super stoked about that. I like that they did the art change is kind of interesting. So we'll see how that changes.
Definitely can see where Revenge of the
Sith
and
I'm excited. I'm excited with the other IP opportunities. I hope. Just to touch on video games for a second, I think, I think, what is it? The one that just came out,
Fallen
Order. Yeah. So that's not a game I'd necessarily enjoy, but I'm glad that it's been well received, or that it's been relatively well received critically.
Yeah.
Not a perfect game. I think it's still EA, so not a perfect game. Battlefront. Again, has been doing better. When it first released, garbage.
Yeah,
but now it's a lot better.
Talking a lot about games are so judged so differently.
Oh, of course, they're judged completely differently by a totally different audience. It's a totally different a set of metrics. But what I'm saying is there are definitely other avenues that Star Wars can excel in, and I hope that they branch out and they give more people the access to make content that are Star Wars related. I think if they were to stop, squeezing their IP so tightly.
Yeah, if there's one thing that I can guarantee that won't happen is that we'll run out of Star Wars stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it'll be. I'm sure we'll be dead.
Around.
I'm sure we'll be dead in the ground by and it'll still keep going. That's just an IP that just never. Because I mean, there's always going to be new generations. There's always going to be. There's always going to be the next generation of Star Wars fans. And that's fine with me. It's the same thing with Marvel and DC and. With characters like, Batman and Superman, those characters will be around forever, which is fine with me. I'm excited. I hope that they continue in other avenues.
I just wish they were making them for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can you just tailor all of your new content to me, please? The early 20s demographic, please. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough, but yeah. That's Star Wars.
That's Star Wars, man.
Like
thanks
it or hate
it.
But that's where it's at.
Yeah. Well,
Jonah,
thanks for having me on.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun.
A common tradition here on the That's Movies Brother podcast is to somehow force in the phrase "That's Movies Brother" toward the ending.
Well, let me tell you one thing. That's Movies Brother.
Perfect.
That's
it.
That
was what
good,
a way
right?
to end. Woo!
All right.
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 All right.